going to fix our ridiculous tax code. You got a clean slate. You're going to rewrite it today. How would you do it? 888-630 WMAL. That's my first question to Representative Erik Paulsen of Minnesota on this tax day. I want to talk about what you've already done, Congressman, and how next year's tax day will be different than today's. But honestly, if you could start from scratch, what would you do to fix our tax code?
Well, Larry, it's good to be with you on tax day, by the way. Happy tax day.
Yeah.
If you're going to start from scratch, you certainly wouldn't design it the way it was designed by Congress. I mean, obviously, we went through a big overhaul, making it a lot simpler, so now 90% of all folks will no longer itemize. But you'd want to move it in a direction that it is even more simpler so nobody has to itemize, right? And you could make it clear for small businesses and large employers alike to take the benefits of making sure you're selling your products and goods and services around the world and making sure you're growing strong at home. And this new revamp of the code does that. We're seeing the benefits already, actually early benefits, which is exciting to see. But we have a lot more to go. We don't need to wait 30 more years to redo it and fix it again.
You say, the cost of compliance is outrageous, and the amount of time that your average American who does itemize has to devote to saving information and going through it and doing it. It really is nightmarish, even though it's been computerized. Can I ask you just said 90% of taxpayers starting next year will just have to do a standardized deduction. Is that right? Is that what your estimate? How are you getting the word out to those people? I got to think if people itemize right now and next year they'll actually be better off by just taking the standardized deduction. How do they know? Who's going to let them know? Because certainly their accountant isn't going to let them know because it's not in their interest.
Well, there's always room for accountants, right? It's somewhere in this process, unfortunately. But I do think there won't be as much tax planning. We made the estate tax a lot simpler, for instance. We got rid of the alternative minimum tax, essentially.
Yeah, that's huge.
This theory where you do your taxes once, and then you got to recalculate them a second time to figure out if you owe a larger chunk of money. That all goes by the wayside now. And there's no doubt today brings out a lot of big worries for folks. I mean, you've heard about them from folks. People pay for child care, they live paycheck to paycheck, and then you have the anxiety of keeping all that paperwork for compliance when you file your taxes. It's why some of us believe that not only on a day like today should you talk about a new tax code for next year, but it's also an important time to revamp the IRS. I mean, it's been decades since the IRS was overhauled, so it's more customer-friendly. When there's audits that happen, they should be notifying you who's being audited before they notify your friends and family and employer that you're being audited, and make it more like a small claims court where you're in, you're out, and you have those problems solved quicker. So we have a lot more work to do.
That said, in terms of making the IRS more customer friendly and accommodating the needs, we heard reports today that the e-filing system crashed. Is there any word? Have you heard? Are they back online? Because any small business who relies on their website for their income on an important day like this, they'd be history if they couldn't get their system back up.
Yeah, the last I heard was that the Treasury was going to basically give one more day. For a final day to actually get your tax work in because of that crash in the system. I know in the House today, we were actually passing a series of bills that are revamping the IRS and also looking at identity theft because we have a lot of folks that have been, fraudulent tax returns have been filed by scammers. And so it makes it real difficult for someone when they file their own return and they find out, someone's already taken my refund. So we're adding opportunities now for a new 6-digit PIN number, for instance, that would authenticate for taxpayers and make sure you're getting your return and you're the real person that's applying for it.
That's a great idea, and don't put that Mark Zuckerberg in charge of that, okay? Because I don't. Okay. He's a shifty little guy. Real fast, let me drag you into some politics here, Representative Paulsen, if I can, because it seems to me that the move to force the Democrats' hand on a vote to make these tax cuts permanent would be a brilliant political strategy. Let's remind the American people as they go into the voting booth in November that these Democrats were against this fantastic tax cut that's already helped the economy, already helped so many Americans, and let's force them, even in retrospect, after knowing the good news that this tax cut brought, they're going to vote no again. Are you moving to make these permanent?
I'm anticipating we will move in that direction in the House in particular. Look, on the Ways and Means Committee, we were confined by these arcane Senate rules where we had to stick this inside baseball budget reconciliation. So we weren't able to do it the way we would want to normally do it, but now we're free of that.
That's right.
There are provisions like business expensing that expires in a few years down the road. We want to make that permanent so there's certainty. We have individual rates that would go back up in a few years. We want to make those permanent. And it's true, no Democrat voted for the tax reform and tax cuts that happen. I think there are several of them now that regret that vote. But they're on the wrong side of history. They're on the wrong side of results, and they will get a second chance. I would anticipate Chairman Brady wants to move forward in the House, probably sometime this fall in September after we have just another series of hearings about the next steps.
Yep. I don't want to hear about this blue wave anymore and Republicans waving the white flag. As soon as voters realize that the Democrats were against this, I think it ticks that little meter a little bit further toward the Republicans whenever the
Well, Larry,
polls are taken.
the other thing to remember, too, is that, people today are better off now than they were 15 months ago. The economy is surging. Employment is up. Wages are up. People feel good about their neighbors keeping their jobs. We've got new jobs coming in the pipeline. So there's no doubt people feel better about the economy. We have to sort of restore the American spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation and hard work and resourcefulness, and that's exactly what's happening right now in the economy.
Representative Erik Paulsen of Minnesota, thank you for joining us today. Well said, sir. I hope the rest of the Republican caucus are with you on that and they can message it as well as you did.